Hi, welcome to this video series on unsupervised learning. So far, we have covered one major branch of machine learning, that was supervised learning. Now, we start our series on unsupervised learning. We would quickly go through what machine learning is, a quick recap. Then we would understand supervised and unsupervised learnings, the primary contrasts and difference. And then we touch base on why do we need unsupervised learning in this video. In the next video, we would learn about clustering, one of the major ways in which unsupervised learning is done. And then we would conclude this series with a hands-on video. With that being said, let's quickly recap what machine learning was. So, machine learning in essence is observing the world by collecting precise data. So, precise data would mean mathematical data, something that is measured with good amount of precision, and then seeing if we can learn something from this data. And then once we learn, via our learning, can we do something with that? So, can it aid our decision making? That is in essence what machine learning is all about. So, a model, if I might, would take observation of the world in form of very precise data and then learn from it. And the way it learns is by finding patterns, and then it summarizes these patterns in a mathematically precise way. And then this mathematically precise way of summarizing is called a model. Once a model is built, we can then use the model to aid our decision making. So, machine learning automates this model building process. Now, imagine the same, let's understand it with a little more concrete example. Let's say we have our data of a series of prices and series of sales. So this price, at this price point we had these many sales, at this price point we had these many sales. Now given this is our observation about the world. So our imagine we are just watching this part of the world. So this becomes our precise observation about the world, and the way an algorithm would learn from this data and summarize this in a mathematically precise way would be by using various techniques called machine learning. One of them would be linear regression. You might already know that linear regression is uh, plotting all the points and seeing what is the best fit line through the data, and then summarizing this entire observation in a mathematical model, and then using this mathematical model to aid our decision making to for predictions, and there are multiple applications. So the way these models are created are via machine learning. That is the essence of machine learning. Now when we say learning about the data, learning about the world from data, we make a broad assumption here. So what I state is there is a past, and then if if we believe future somehow has some predictability from the past, so there is something in the past which helps me predict the future. Now don't get it in the sense that if past 3 days it rained, then tomorrow it would rain. I would weaken the argument a little bit by saying there are some things in past, if we observe we can form some notation and get some idea about what future might be like. Now what makes it difficult is the data in past is not only with patterns, it would have, it's a combination of information and noise. And when I say past data is a combination of information and noise, it would mean, so think of information as uh, if you toss a coin 10 times and uh, it had you would see a series of heads and tails. So the noise part of would be sixth time of the toss was heads. So that wouldn't mean in future if we toss 10 times the sixth time it would land head. But we can extract information from the past by accumulating all of these heads and tails by applying some probability, and then we extract the information that perhaps if the coin is fair, it has 50% chance of landing ahead, and that can be used to predict the future, that uh, regardless of the toss there might be 50% probability of future. And another example might be if we take a series of observations on the days it rained and the days it did not rain, then the noise would be exactly what days it rained. So it rained on the second day, sixth day, 8th, 12th and 13th day of the month. And on that basis, if we try to predict the future that it rains every second, 6th, 8th, 12th and 13th day of the month, it we would not end up with making good predictions. However, if we say there is 35.7 chance of rain, this might be something useful. The longer and deeper we look at it, the more meaningful patterns we can extract. And the more meaningful patterns we can extract, the better we would separate information from the noise. So machine learning is part art of isolating information from this noise. So we might put a seasonality to rain and say, or we might put a better probabilistic measure that given it rained yesterday, how likely is it to rain on the next day? Based on the past observations, we can have those kind of predictions for future. This is isolating information from noise. Why do we do that? Is precisely because information repeats from past to the future. So this information is same as this information. However, noise, uh, just by the essence of what noise is, or just by definition, it's random in nature, and hence this noise would not repeat. I would not say there is no noise in future. Of course, events anywhere in past or in future would always have some certain element of noise or randomness in it. But what I meant to say is the noise in past is not the same as noise in future. The best we can do is extract the information, predict it for future, and of course you can never be 100% a good prediction. Then you have laid bare the future, and you wouldn't require any other thing. So there would always be an element of unpredictability with in future, but the better our models are, the most amount of noise can be filtered away, and we are left with isolated information which we can use to predict the future to as best of our ability as possible. This extraction of information from past and using it to predict future is at the heart of all the machine learning algorithms. Now, machine learning happens to have two broad categories, supervised and unsupervised. The supervised part of learning is where we have all the observations, which are also called features, and then we have one particular type of data available to us, which we also called labeled data. This is often the part which we are trying to predict. So if our data has labels available to us, that is called a supervised learning. By labels, I would mean the thing that we are trying to predict. So if we are trying to predict the temperature of the day based on quite a lot of data like humidity, past temperatures, season of the month, hour of the day, perhaps. I'm just making this up as we talk. So given all of this, if there is a column called temperature in the past data and we are trying to learn from it to extract patterns, these type of algorithms are called supervised learning algorithms. These algorithms or these type of problems are usually they usually tend to be very well defined problems. So you would see problems like, this is the data, it has a lot of observations on how a cat looks, and a lot of observations, a lot of images of cats, a lot of images of dogs. Now take this data, write something, and given a new picture, predict whether it's a dog or a cat. Now this is a well defined problem. all the previous data given had a label of images. So if imagine data being lists a series of images, each with a label that this is a cat, this is an image of the dog, and we use those to uh, put algorithms together for identification. Another type might be where given series of attributes, we have various prices of a product that is being sold, and we have a lot of this, and then we try to predict that for a given new set of features what might be the price. So wherever we have access to labels, this is called supervised learning. These problems tend to be very well defined, and labels are very very powerful in sense they help the algorithm to increasingly optimize something and reduce the difference between the predicted and the actual value of the label. And by repetitively doing some calculations, the AI agent or algorithm would try to minimize this error. And it's by minimizing this, it is able to draw very clear decision boundaries, thereby helping us predict. Now, you should be aware of these terms by now. Supervised learning, there are certain concepts like overfitting, underfitting. Overfitting is when you uh, the algorithm learns both information and the noise part from the past. Underfitting is where the model does not even learn the entirety of the information in the past and hence cannot predict well. There is a concept of test train sets, and there is a concept of regularization by which we prevent overfitting of models. Now, compared to these, unsupervised learning algorithms or unsupervised learning is a territory where we do not have any labels, we just have some data. We can't call these features, or we can call all of these columns features, but imagine, if you will, there the data set has bunch of columns and none of these columns have any target variable, so it's just a data. Now in this sort of problems, the objective is not so well defined, so you just have the data, and perhaps you might want to understand the inherent underlying structure of the data. You want to group it into multiple groups perhaps, and then see what can be done with these groups. So problems are not very clearly defined, and because there is no target variable, it's very very difficult to measure the performance of these algorithms. These type of algorithms work by understanding the inherent structure of the data. The objective here is to understand how the data is distributed, what is the structure contained. Think of it as bunch of features which are then clustered into different types. These might be features like age, gender, monthly amount spent on certain product, and based on these you form two clusters. So these points are more likely to be of one kind, and these points are more likely to be other kind. Now these might be anything. These might be perhaps a group of customers who behave in a particular way, and these might be group of customers who behave in a different way, and then you can devise your advertising strategies differently for each of these. So those are the typical type of problems that you would see in unsupervised learning. But at the heart of this is the notion that items of a similar type behave in a certain way, and items of dissimilar type do not tend to overlap that much. If we are able to cleanly segregate that, then that is in essence what we try to do in unsupervised learning. Now broadly, supervised learning, we generalize something and make predictions. By generalizing, I mean we observe the data and we make a mathematical model out of it. So that way we have generalized our understanding about the data. But unsupervised learning works by extracting the inherent structure of the data, the true representation of the data. It does so by representing the data in various different dimensions, or dimensions far less from the number of features, and by certain techniques it understands the inherent structure of this data and it is able to bring together certain type of observations which are more uh, closer to each other than to the observations which are clubbed with other clusters. Now, as we go along this series, we would understand this better. So, one way to make this a little more concrete is, imagine a supervised learning as you are given a bunch of emails, and bunch of emails, and then there is a label of whether these emails are spam or not. You feed that to an algorithm, it would understand the pattern among all the words that are used. So it might use a simple KNN classifier or a naive based classifier. Mostly these type of algorithms would use a naive based classifier. So naive based classifier would calculate probabilities like, given a mail is spam. So the objective would be, given a set of words, how likely is it to be a spam? It would answer that question by converting that into a problem statement which looks like, given something is spam, what is the probability of the words in the email times the probability of something being spam divided by the evidence provided, the probability of the words occurring. So and that's how, so you put any machine learning algorithm there which we learned in supervised video series, that would be able to classify things into spam or not spam. And then once the algorithm is trained, any new email that comes, it should be easily be able to classify that into a spam or not spam. Now compared to that, if you are just given a bunch of emails and there is no label about spam or no spam, now how would you even start with this? What would you do with this data? That, so the way, the point I guess I'm trying to drive here is, while supervised learnings start with very clear cut objective, unsupervised learning mostly starts with vague objectives, and often you would start without understanding of the way data is represented. And the objective often to start with is to understand the representation of data or the structure of data, and then gradually keep building on that and then see how things emerge. So compared to that, imagine if we had an unsupervised learning where we did not have any labels, and then we asked the algorithm to find out the underlying representation of the data. So something very very interesting emerges. Then it's no longer constrained, the algorithm is no longer constrained to divide something only into spam and non-spam. Now it can go through all the words and try to understand the inherent structure, and it might actually classify them into 5 broader groups. So while it might not name or label these groups, but it would say these type of emails belong are of one type, the other bunch of emails are of certain other type, the other bunch of emails are of certain other type, and so on and so forth. Now if you observe these groups, these might be some things, a group of emails might be important, a group of emails might be only from your social networks, a group of emails might be promotional emails from various newsletters, advertisements, etc., etc. A different type of bunch might be only from the forums, or these are the places where you would have subscribed to. So it comes up on its own with something very interesting, and later you can label them as, okay, the cluster 1 is primary, let's call the cluster 2 of email social, and then given any new email you would know where to classify it accordingly. So to understand truly the importance of some unsupervised learning, I will quote Jan LeCun. Jan LeCun, interestingly, was the Nobel Prize winner. Fields Prize winner. This time it's far more. So I'm sorry. I think he won Nobel Prize, not Fields Prize. So Jan LeCun, regardless what he won, I think we can Google. But he's one of those legendary people who revolutionized artificial intelligence. So he was instrumental in sustaining the interest in I've provided a link. It gives a very good history about the entire movement of artificial intelligence right from its origin. So how it started, how it died down, the funding was cut. Then we had couple of very long some years where there was no funding for AI, and this totally dropped out of fashion. And then there were three people. One of them was Jan LeCun, and Jan LeCun sustained their efforts, and then they made some breakthroughs which again uh, kindled the interest in artificial intelligence. So if you are interested to read, you can click this link. But these are the words of Jan LeCun, which gives truly how important unsupervised learning is. And I also write about uh, in the same article on why I think the next breakthrough would definitely be from the hope for AI to have the next breakthrough. It would come from the unsupervised part of learning. So if you are interested, you can read these articles. In the next video, we would learn all about clustering algorithms. As you would see, unsupervised learning would be broadly like how supervised was broken into regression and classification problems. Unsupervised learning is broken into two broader types: dimensionality reduction and clustering. So in our next video, we would learn all about clustering. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked what you see, please do subscribe and like. A lot of effort goes into making these videos and the material. One of the ways to thank me is by sharing this and getting more subscribers to the channel. Thank you.